The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And I were on the open line today. Mannin Line through till 1. Call 66 13 68. Text or WhatsApp on 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. So if you were at that meeting last night at the Doon Church Hall in Glenmona, what did you think of it? Police were hosting a community information evening following that serious incident in Mackle yesterday afternoon when two men were assaulted, including one on Cornay Beach, who has been transferred to the UK for hospital treatment. Northern Constabulary neighbourhood policing team say the purpose of the meeting was to give all residents and those affected by the incident reassurance and support. And I just wonder what you thought, the communication of it all and how it was very disconcerting, wasn't it, when it happened on Monday. It was a strange kind of concatenation of events that just happened. And Cornay Beach, I mean, the gorgeous Cornay Beach. You remember a few weeks ago we had a report from the guy who looks after Cornay Beach on behalf of the owner, who said that the buildings there were smashed up, all the windows were smashed in it. So, and Cornay is so gorgeous, it's so precious, really. So it'd be nice to know really what the kind of the bottom line was of all that. Somebody sent a message yesterday. It says Stevie, who dropped a note in. Stevie said, stating that armed police were being deployed more to minor issues and call-outs. Stevie said, I think it's important to discriminate between an officer attending an incident who is firearms qualified and armed, and the deployment of armed police, which needs to be done by an inspector and follow a process. Get it? Two things. Police officers carrying firearms reduces the call-out time if armed response is required, but it does therefore mean that these officers, qualified and on shift, will be armed. I, says Stevie, don't want to wait 40 minutes if I'm being threatened by a knife or a gun. I'm fully in favour of this policy of armed police being deployed more and more. So you get the thing. The distinction to be made is a firearms qualified and armed officer who's attending an incident and the deployment of an armed police, which needs to be done by an inspector and follow a process. If you've got any thoughts, by all means do get in touch. Still lots of comment coming in about people talking during theatre or theatrical performances at the Villa Marina or elsewhere. And it's not all complimentary, I'll be honest with you. It just seems to be a trend where people love to chat during... It's as though they think they're at home watching the TV. But, I mean, do you talk when you're watching TV or do you pay attention? It's a moot point in our house. Julian's with us now. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Funny you should mention theatre, because I'm going to mention something about that in a minute. Following up on yesterday's programme, I'd like to thank the caller who asserted yesterday that the yellow card vaccine injury reporting system can be just for sniffles. I'm not sure how the caller knows that, but I decided to look into his statement. You know, obviously you have to listen to what people say. Yeah. And sure enough, I've got an update for you. A very revealing UK FOI request from July this year. So an update on the figures that I gave yesterday. That FOI number is 2025/00636. That states that there's an even higher number of Manx yellow card vaccine injury reports than I thought. It's 1,095 of them. But what's most interesting about this FOI is 837 of them, or over three-quarters, were classed as serious. So 837 is about, imagine the full capacity to the gunnels of the Gaiety Theatre of people injured on the island that have been classed as serious, right, which includes life-threatening, required hospitalisation, or cause persistent or significant disability, Also, Andy, there were 6 Manx deaths registered on the yellow card system attributable to vaccine COVID-19 specific harms on the island, but I don't recall hearing about those 6 vaccine deaths over here. So part of yesterday's thing, I mentioned yesterday that the 1976 swine flu vaccine was pulled on safety grounds at 1 serious injury per 100,000. So according to this FOI request I've just mentioned from the UK MHRA regarding Manx injuries from COVID vaccines, that rate of injury here is 1,610 times more than the swine flu vaccine safety signal that caused that vaccine to be withdrawn. I also remember the caller mentioned that the medications that he's taking have safety leaflets stating the risk factors. During the COVID vaccine rollouts, there was nothing written on the safety leaflets because it was under emergency usage authorization. So there weren't any because it had only been tested for 8 weeks. So that begs the question, was there informed consent at the vaccination hubs when people were signing up for this? And another point, this is to do with the yellow card system. If someone creates a login for the yellow card's website and then registers the multiple pages for an injury, what happens subsequently to that report if they die? Because it seems unlikely that there's going to be a follow-up added to a yellow card data for that individual. And the only other thing I've really to comment on this is, why is Pfizer's share price down almost 60% since 2021? It kind of looks like Orsted's share price when you look at it. It's kind of like Mount Everest down the right-hand side, going down to the floor. So are people voting with their feet in a quiet way anyway? I don't see any other reason why Pfizer's share price would suddenly drop like a stone after 2021.
Well, the fact is, I mean, we don't really know, do we? I mean, I follow the stock market, but I don't, not slavishly. I don't look at it from day to day. But we don't really know. As you say, we don't really know. Nobody really knows what happened during COVID, do they, Julian? Nobody really knows because everybody was probably scared to death at the time. I mean, remember, it was mentioned in very harrowing terms what could happen during COVID. So, people, bluntly, most people did as they were told.
Yeah, but really, just talking about, on paper, FOI, that UK one regarding Manx injuries, which I'll just repeat it, 2025/00636. You've got a full capacity Gaiety Theatre full of people on this island that had life-threatening or required hospitalisation or have persistent or significant disability as a result of COVID-19 specific injuries. And there were 6 deaths that I don't remember being reported. So that's the empirical evidence that is undeniable based on the FOI. So Did you go to the meeting at
Tyrosion at all?
It's tomorrow, I think.
Sorry, in that case, I'm sorry. You're not a time traveller,
yeah.
But you went to the first one, didn't you?
No, I didn't have a chance to go. That was the one in Ramsey, which I hear was quite well patriated. But the one, I think Tyrosion tomorrow, I think is 7:15, but might want to just look at that again. I think it's going to be quite an interesting meeting, that, if anyone can get down to it.
Okay, all right, we appreciate it. Thanks, Julian, good to hear from you.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
By all means, it's 12:15. Remember, anything you hear on Manx Radio is subject to a rebuttal, by the way. You can always have your say if you hear something that you don't agree with. And remember, most of what you hear is opinion. It's people's interpretation. It's what people think. So this is not an open university show. This is also for you to comment as well. Text, email, call, and WhatsApp, and let's have a look here. A note about my husband and I took a parcel. My husband took a parcel to Annika Store's post office yesterday and mentioned to the lady behind the counter that he heard from a man on your show that the post office is going to be shut down. She was shocked, apparently heard nothing about it, says Anne. Well, we're trying to get to the bottom of how many post office counters are going to be lost. Now, remember, a lot of these counters won't be actual post office. They're inside Spar stores. And remember, Spar is owned by the brewery. So whether or not, and of course there'll be a funding mechanism within there whereby the post office may pay a postmaster or mistress for this. Anyway, we're trying to find out, and indeed, if some post offices do disappear, as many have, what are they going to be replaced by? So, get on to that. Oh, well, thanks, Andy, for a note in. He just said, I think they should bring back work experience. It worked for me in the 1990s when I was at St Ninian's. I was thrown into Balaclone School and Data Centre. I clicked with all the computer stuff and had a job as soon as I left school, roaming some of the largest computers on the Isle of Man. Now I'm the IT coordinator for a 20,000 population municipality in America, and I would never have got there without that start. I say bring back work experience. Renewable energy on the Isle of Man isn't hard, he goes on. I don't know why the government is making it that way. The Isle of Man government owns a lot of property on the Isle of Man, so throw up some solar panels on some of the properties, change the meters and feed back to the grid. This can be done on properties that the government owns. It can be done incrementally and relatively inexpensively. Also, vertical wind turbines, smaller vertical wind turbines, can be used anywhere and everywhere to generate power. These could have been used all over the Isle of Man, residences and businesses, with minimal impact to anything. They've got to line the promenade and power the lighting there as well. These are I don't know whether you've seen them, vertical things. They're they're vertical. They just kind of slip round. They could have lined the prom, start with a few government-owned properties, open up the option for grants and things like that to make it more attractive for the private sector. Vertical, smaller wind turbines. And also, microgrids have proved to be working globally. Whether it's lots of smaller footprints generating and feeding to the grid, or a street or a community sharing a local battery, backup or reserves. Makes a lot more sense to distribute power generation, not to load all of those eggs into one basket. Minimize the impact on the environment or use existing infrastructure to feed to the grid. All of this shows motion and needs interest from the government. It's easy progress. It's measurable and quantifiable. It promotes local experience and it generates jobs as well. Well, thank you, Andy. Good to hear from you, and thanks for that note from across the Atlantic. Juan's with us now. Hello, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
Very well. I'm still safe from kidnap.
Who's paying the ransom? Has Mrs. Wint got the money ready?
Oh, dear me. You'd wait a long time.
Well, she could pay them in Mannin Line tea towels, couldn't she?
Very nice, yes.
Very nice, yeah. Hey, I see they're doing a performance of 1984 at the Gaiety Theatre. I think it's a Comin production in association with Whitehall Entertainment.
Very good.
I think, Winston Smith is being played by Stu Peters, and O'Brien's being played by Alf Cannon, and I think Big Brother is being played by Jane Poole Wilson, with stand-in as Dan Davis. So there you go. That'll be worth seeing, won't it? And just touching on what Julian was talking about, and I have to ask the question, there was so much publicity about the people that died from COVID or with COVID. It begs the question of why were we not informed that there's been 6 deaths from vaccination injuries? In transparency for this subject, then this data should have been released. The fact that you have to go through the UK to get an FOI, and I'm looking at this FOI, I was looking at it this morning, the fact that you have to go through the UK to get this, and you can't get it locally, is a little bit disturbing and not transparent from our government.
Well, isn't that just because that yellow ticket system is based in the UK?
Well, that's fine, but why is it not being publicised or put in the papers over here? If there's been 837 serious injuries, and 6 deaths, why didn't we know about this? So we're very quick to tell us about the deaths from COVID. And all I'm saying is in transparency, Andy, and this kind of brings me to when I started coming on this show at COVID time, 5 years ago, and I was interviewed by Ewan Gorn at that time when I was in Florida on what was happening there. And their interview got cut and chopped down to about 30 seconds. And I think because the narrative that I was given about what was happening there compared to the UK was a totally different scenario. And after that, that's why I started coming on this show, because what I put out there stays out there. It's in the ether, it's out there, not cut and chopped and pasted. And that's why I started doing this, because, there's so much been going on that the government's are kept a little bit under wraps. And it's fair you're saying that at the time, people were scared. And yes, they were made to be scared. There was so much nudge press at the time. And there's people now, and I know a lot of people who are in the fire service and all sorts of jobs on the island, who say, I would never take any more of that because of the effects that I have. I've never been the same since. My immune system is worn. I can't get rid of coughs and colds as quick. So let's be transparent about it. And people go to the meeting and say their piece. And let's have some open dialogue about this conversation. It's like when you talk about the Nazis or something. It's one of them conversations that no one wants to talk about. So maybe let's get that out in the open. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well was they've got a meeting, is it tonight, for residents about at the Doon Church, about it's a community evening for people affected by the event at Cornay. And I'm wondering who's actually affected. I mean, we keep getting these here meetings now for people who are affected. Well, I mean, there's two people obviously being affected, but from what I can see, who's been affected? What's the narrative with this, Andy? And again, you're talking about guns on the streets, and we've covered this before. Who's going to pull that first trigger? What's going to happen when that first trigger's pulled? And is it going to be justified? When people talk about, I feel safer with people with guns on the streets, police officers, what's going to happen when that first trigger's pulled? Can you imagine the news that's going to come out of that? And whether it's justified. I live in places where people are armed, and the crime rate in these places is pretty high. And I know people in private security who are armed and have to use guns. They hate using them because of the paperwork that's involved afterwards. And I still say that this is a slippery slope for the Isle of Man, for where we are at the moment. The fear narrative is so big, for like, oh, we need this. Just protect the borders. Stop the people coming in. And, I've spoke to police officers, and a lot of the police officers, the ex-police officers say, there is no need for half of this. They're just making a fear narrative out of something. Yeah. That's my opinion anyway, Andy, on that.
Just one thing, let me just take you back. You mentioned that, one of our reporters edited something that you'd said. So, I mean, obviously sometimes we edit things for time purposes. You can't have somebody going on, if a report's going in the news, nobody goes on for a minute or so there. What, in your opinion, what changed in the editing of what you thought you said and what actually came out?
Everything, Andy. I done virtually 5 minutes, and as you've just said, that has to be cut and pasted. I understand that. I've done stuff up at Manx Radio before. I understand that the cut and paste. But I done a 5 minutes, and then I done a follow-up with another 2 minutes the next day. And the whole 5 minutes was gone. It was cut and chopped to like a 30-second incident. So the narrative that I was given was what was happening in Florida. And the narrative that I was given then as well was the use of ivermectin, which I've said right from the start with this. And this is a conversation that no one wanted to have then. It was a tinfoil hatter. And now the stuff that's coming out has been proven that there's questions that needed to be asked. And this is another thing now that's come out with this, 6 deaths on the Isle of Man. There's questions needed to be asked of why this has not been released. If we're talking about a world of DEIs and equity and inclusion and transparency, then release the information. Why aren't you releasing it?
Okay, all right. Well, we've heard what you've had to say, and let's see if anything comes of that. And certainly, if there are deaths from the COVID vaccine or COVID vaccine injuries, that's something certainly that we'll follow up, Ewan.
Absolutely, and we're only using the figures from the actual authentic agencies and the FOIs that have been released. So this is not made up. This is figures. Julian's researched it. I'm looking at the FOI now. This is the government's actual figures. So for anyone that's going to come on and dispel it, it's the actual figures.
Okay, all right. Stuart, good to hear from you. Thanks for thanks for being with us today. And Robert, by the way, the correct time for tomorrow's meeting, the COVID vaccine injury at Tyrosion in Port Erin, is 6:15, just by the Four Roads at Tyrosion, if you don't know where it is. It's 6:15 tomorrow, and it is Robert with us now. Hello, Robert.
Hi, how you doing, Andy?
What a lovely day, isn't it gorgeous?
I think we've got a good stretch of weather for a while now, haven't we? Until next Tuesday or Wednesday or something,
Hope so,
don't we?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm sorry to hear about the job we're having up at Cornay. I'm not quite aware of that situation, but I'm sure it'll span itself out at some stage, and people just get together and get around the fire and what have you and get over it. But I mean, it's not as easy as you think it is, all that stuff. What I was going to talk to you about was I went to now this wasn't advertised on the What's On guide, I got it off Facebook, but it was philosophy cafe for the Isle of Man. And we got together and we talked about philosophy, which was a range of things. And it was quite interesting, to be honest with you. I mean, we were talking about rational and irrational, and balanced and imbalanced, and whether there's a black swan and things like that. It was a strange one for a while, and they said, well, certain people rebuff that, so you're not necessarily going to catch one or anything like that. So don't worry about that. They
What's
don't really
a black
exist.
swan?
Well, it's a good question. It's a very good question. If you talk to the FMs, apparently there's one up in Ramsey on a private estate somewhere. It is as you say it is, but it's a very exceedingly rare thing. So you wouldn't normally get one, but it's been rebuffed by philosophers and things like that they don't actually exist.
Right.
So I think it's just a bit of a myth.
Well, if anybody's got a photo of the black swan up in the north, we'd like to hear it and see it.
Well, maybe you will, but I mean, it's a MythBuster thing as well. It's kind of like part of the folklore. So I'm not sure it would carry well in the actual facts. But we got down to where the science of the situation, and if there's any actual evidence for this and that and all the rest of it. And it was quite interesting going over the science of it and getting more of a debate going over, well, how do you actually, what are the actual truths about this and that. And it was quite interesting getting to that stage. Okay. And lots of people were there. It was good circular talk. And I recommend anyone else who wants to pop in on a Thursday.
Whereabouts is it?
On a Wednesday. Well, it was a good question. Where the next shop is in HSBC in that area? They have Bohemian's Cafe. Yeah. Just on the left-hand side as you're walking up the street. It was in there upstairs, so it was a bit packed.
Good.
But it was a good get-together all round. You will be on one to a certain extent, and you will be on the hotspot now and again. But I felt comfortable, and it's very rare that I feel comfortable in a Manx setting. So I felt comfortable talking about stuff.
All right.
So I enjoyed that, and that was well worth it. But Manx Philosophy Cafe Isle of Man on Facebook or something similar.
All right.
And they're very good at what they do.
Good to hear from you, Robert. Thanks for that today. Today's philosophy lesson. That's somebody's just said, I've seen black swans in Australia, and thank you, Alan, who said the Black Swan is a pub in Preston. Is that so? Are there plans to extend Derby Prison, and do we know how many staff are going to be needed to keep the facility running at a long level? I'm hearing an alarming number of people who know somebody incarcerated and concerned at the lack of trained officers. Well, if you've got something specific, Will, that you can tell us about, then by all means do get in touch. Do you remember Home Affairs were on a couple of weeks ago, Jane Paul Wilson and Dan Davis. Mr. Davis said that there are plans to increase the capacity of the prison. I think it's purely because Mr. Foster keeps arresting lots of people, but I think it's full at the moment, and I think Dan Davis said they didn't need planning permission to extend the permission. As a sufferer of long COVID, says Andy, and just coming out of it, thanks to the excellent work and treatment from Manx Care, the Thursday meeting will be an excellent opportunity for those suffering to exchange thoughts with experts and fellow sufferers. I do hope some of the Mannin Line internet medical experts aren't going to dominate the meeting. Well, everybody's got an opinion, Andy, and I'm sure everybody will have an opinion there. So if you're going, Andy, please, by all means, do report back. A sign should be displayed saying, "Quiet, please," during performance. Respect the performers. Turn your phone off in the Villa and Gaiety, said John. It's a good idea, John. It's whether or not people would actually do it, and particularly the people who weren't going to do it anyway. What do you do? Eventually, you go up to them, tap them on the shoulder. And if they're the sort of people who will talk during a performance and chat and get up and down all the time, particularly when they sit in the middle of the row, what do you do? At what point do you say, no, hold it? Hold it yourself. Right, I think we've got Tony. Is this hi, Tony?
It's Tony.
Hi, Tony.
B. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. What's on your mind?
I thought you didn't want to talk to me.
I want to talk to everybody, Tony.
Well, you're going to have a struggle to do that. You need to be in charge of the government then.
Oh, good grief!
Because they talk to everybody, so they don't necessarily listen.
Oh, dear me, yeah.
Right. So I've been thinking the last few weeks, and in fact maybe a little bit longer than that there seems to be an absolute plethora of people coming out from government and asking us what we think about things, right? But they never did that before they made any decisions. And they're still doing the same thing. I think this is very much getting ready for next year's election that, oh yeah, we asked you, look at all these times we've asked you what you think about this. But the issue is they've already made their decisions and they keep asking us questions about what do you think of this that we've done already and we want to do. And I'm really getting to the point where I don't think they care what we think. They might ask the question, but I don't think they take anything on board. The vast majority of people are looking at global warming and thinking this is ridiculous. Somebody was on your programme the other day, or on the radio, or on the TV, or something, saying we'll be stopping global warming by 2030. Well, I've never heard such a ridiculous statement. There is no way that we're going to stop global warming because, believe it or not, we are not the biggest polluter. And the biggest polluters are carrying on polluting. So the idea that you can actually just stop it is ludicrous. And the idea that somebody should think that makes me wonder about their sanity. But coming back to the point, okay, that I wanted to make, it seems like everybody in government's asking us what we think about something that they want to do, but they are not taking on board what we think they should have done before, or what we think we should do now. Now, maybe I'm out left field here, but I think there's a lot of people out there who are quite concerned. But unfortunately, a lot of those people won't vote in the election because they're sick to death of the government. And I would absolutely say that the government needs to do something about making sure the turnout for the elections is much, much higher. Either change the law so we have to vote, like they do in Switzerland.
And Australia.
Or change the law... Sorry?
And Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that... I understand that people have got better things to do, okay? But if they don't start doing something soon, you're going to end up with more of the same. And I would encourage people, if you can't get to a polling station, we should have a situation or a system where you can phone up and say, I want a postal vote.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We need to get people who are not really engaged to be engaged. Either offer them a discount on their tax or a reward or whatever it takes.
Well, in Australia, if you don't vote, you get fined. I think it's $75 you get fined in Australia. So, as you say, if we were offered 75 quid off our tax bill for voting, then everybody would vote.
I wouldn't fine people, but I agree with the 75 quid off your tax bill. I think that's something that the tax... and our wonderful Treasury should be able to manage. They can't manage much else, but they should be able to manage that.
What do you think about what do you think about the ex-MHK Paul Quine's theory that if we had a referendum on the same day as the election next year, the referendum about net zero, just a referendum, not an argument about it, whether or not there should be a referendum, that would put up turnout because more people have got a thought about net zero than have about the perspective of MHK?
I'd agree with that 100%. I think there should be referendums on everything that's critical to people. For instance, this idea that we can't go somewhere because there's a secret law that says if you go there, we'll make you liable and put you in prison, which is, what was it? Which is this?
It's the protected spaces, protected places.
Yeah, the protected space from the silly woman who thinks that everything should be how it is in Sussex because she's had experiences down there, or Surrey, or wherever she comes from. But the basic thing I've got is that we need a clearer dimension that people are encouraged to vote. So you get the maximum amount out, and there should be more than one question on this on the referendum. It should be, do you agree with where we're going with global warming, or with our net zero ideas? Yes or no? Not a long list of people that we think this and we think that. It should be a straightforward question. Do you agree with where we are going on net zero? And you can have all the discussions beforehand and let people listen. And that way, at least you might get more people voting, and you might get a little bit of input that is more, shall we say, balanced than what we've got today.
But Tony, why do some people steadfastly not vote? Why do they? What's the process of disengagement where somebody will think this is nothing to do with me?
I think that comes from the government saying, don't you worry, stand back, we'll do exactly what we want and you'll be all right. And that has been there for 10 years or 15 or 20 years. I think this is crept in over a period of time. We were all told during COVID, stay at home, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. And there's been very little explanation as to how that's worked out. But effectively, like your previous callers have just said, it was a con. And it was to get us to do what they wanted. And it worked. And they will continue to do that now because it worked the first time. So I don't have any belief that there's honesty in the government. I don't think there's honesty in the government, and I don't think that the opinions of the civil servants are recorded enough for us to have a judgment on that either. Because everything that the government is told by either a civil servant or from an outside source that they paid for, we never really get to see what it was. You know,
but Tony,
increase the population.
We've got the opportunity, because we're so close to our elected representatives, and because we can meet them in the street, we can go and sit in Tynwald, we can go and sit in the House of Keys. Surely we should be able to get this spot on.
We should be able to. The trouble is, every time I send an email to somebody in government, Mr. Cannon being one example, I get an email back and says he's too busy to look at stuff like this. It will be forwarded to whoever we think needs it. And I can show you that email, because I keep every email. So you don't have the access that you think you do, because if you cornered Ed Cannon, he just basically changed the subject. And I don't believe half the time that they actually know what they're talking about, because they're given advice by people who also haven't got a clue what they're talking about. I mean, who was it that came on and said quite some time ago we shouldn't have the Kroger gas going ahead because we want to develop it properly? And now all of a sudden he's in favour of it. But he was taking advice from somebody who was in favour of wind farms, if I remember correctly, from Julian. So they don't have any idea, and they don't have a clue who they're talking to. And they don't talk to people who actually know, who have experience. They talk to people who have got the right voice to tell them, oh, no, that's all entirely wrong. So we had a situation where we had a chance to do something. Instead of that, we're going to lease the seabed to some company from Denmark, and with queries that why have we got 1,000-foot windmills out there? And the other thing is that's all the fishing grounds. So we won't have any local industry. But don't worry, we're going to get money. And the issue is, are we? Or are we actually going to pay them for the privilege of making electricity to send to the UK? And there is zero clarity from the government as to what they have already agreed. Zero.
Okay. All right, Tony.
All right.
We appreciate it.
I'm very much in favour of referendum. I'm very much in favour of people voting. We need, if you want to have a life in the future, you need to start taking an interest.
All right. Thanks for calling today.
All the best, Andy.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
Isle of Man Sea Cadets gives young people the opportunity to take part in recreational water sports and adventure whilst building the skills that equip them for the future. Our cadet experience, delivered with a Royal Naval ethos, is proven to build physical and mental well-being, confidence and lifelong friendships. We're recruiting cadets and volunteers. Get in touch. Search Isle of Man Sea Cadets.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
Dear Santa, this Christmas I would like more customers and more sales, please. I have been very good.
There are more reliable ways to make sure your business gets what it needs this winter. At Manx Radio, we'll create tailor-made advertising solutions to get you the results you want over the festive season and into the new year. Call our friendly sales team now on 682620 and give your business a really happy Christmas and New Year with the nation station, Manx Radio.
Can I have a new bike too?
No, buy your own.
Oh.
The Isle of Man Creamery, famous for the freshest Manx milk, dairy products, Noah Bakehouse treats and more, has now made ordering deliveries even easier. Simply download the Isle of Man Creamery Doorstep Direct app and you're ready to order. Reschedule deliveries, see your order history and request invoices. Treat your taste buds in a few taps. Get info and add to your order now at isleofmancreamery.com/delivery. Or visit your app store to download the app now.
Gilg 2, Gilg J as Gilg Nera.
A Gilg, the Manx Gaelic, Chinian Amera, the mother tongue of Elian Vannin, the Isle of Man. You can catch up with more of Manx Radio's Manx language programmes in the weekly podcast Abershen Rish. Say that again. Shene, that's the one.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
16 minutes before 1. Wilf's with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hiya. I was just listening to Tony there, and he's such a practical, clever, sensible man. I think marvellous fella. Should be running the government. Anyway, that's beside the point. Did I hear earlier on Robert talking about black swans?
Yeah.
And that I possibly might know something about it.
Is there a black swan in the north?
Yeah. Well, they are very rare, of course, but that's only in this side of the world. They're the national sort of bird, if you like, in Australia. They're all black swans there, and there's been one or two fetched over to England, and there was two in Ramsey, in an estate on the Derby Road.
Right.
There's a big dub, specially dug there, and they were in there, and a couple of ducks with them. And I don't know. I don't know that the wings were clipped, but I don't know. They somehow disappeared. I think they were two males or two females, because they nested, but they never bred.
Right.
And but I did see one time. I did see another one in Douglas Harbour on its own.
When?
Oh, well, a couple of years ago now. So I don't know actually what happened to that. Probably drowned in the pollution that's in there, I suppose. I don't know. But that one seemed to have disappeared as well. But they're the only ones I've heard of it. But the only reason that they're rare is because they're imports. That's all it is.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
So there were 2 in the north, but we don't think they're there anymore.
Oh, they're definitely not there.
Right, okay.
Definitely not there. The dove is empty. There might be an odd wild duck in or something. I don't know, but other than that, they're definitely gone.
Right.
But they were there for quite a few years. They were bought specially and put in a special environment just for them. But it's a very posh estate.
Right.
And they were stuck in there for, well, I suppose people go and look at them and feed them and whatever. I don't know.
All right. All right.
There you go.
Good to hear from you, Will. Thanks for being with us today.
All right.
It's 13 minutes before 1. And did you, like Wilf, see a black swan in Douglas Harbour a few years ago? It seems that countries, this is text 404, seems that countries that routinely have armed police have a lot more violent crime to deal with. Could it be that lawbreakers are more likely to be armed when they know the police will be? If so, are armed police escalating crime by being armed? Well, 404. That's the question. And if you knew the answer to that, you'd make a fortune as a crime consultant, wouldn't you? We don't know. And who knows what will happen. But the Chief Constable is adamant in that first of all, he has to protect his officers. He said that on the show. He didn't want to have to go to the relatives of officers and say the ultimate bad news. So we are where we are. Anyway, here's David with us now. Hello, David.
Hi, Andy. It's a shame that I wasn't on before Wilp, but never mind. Because Wilp was on the other day, and he'll be listening anyway, regarding his form he sent in for the elections, local authority, and I'm talking about it now from my point of view when I stood for election as well. I sent in, one form. It was actually sent in by the clerk of Onken commissioners there. And a couple of weeks later, he come back to me and said to me, they didn't receive the form. I said, well, wait a minute, you sent it in. He said, yeah, no, I've sent it in. And I had to fill another one in, which I did. And I've not heard nothing at all, but I just wanted to correct a little thing. I thought Wilf was trying to intimate we got money for it.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't spend any money because the last one was a non-election, so there wasn't anything spent. So it was zero on that. But you don't get money back. I don't want to give people hope that when you stand for election, you do get recompense by the government. I've never got recompense by the government at all.
Right.
On that. But I just want to talk really about what's happened with Peel. Nobody's been on to say what's happened with the 20 mile an hour. Did anybody question the minister?
We've not heard, David.
We've not heard anything. Did anybody turn up? That's the other question. And I've got to agree with, not 90% with Tony, but say 50% with Tony is, my concern is when they have consultations out and they come from, say, Home Affairs to Treasury, lock them out from Treasury, DOI, you need to ring them back or email them back and say to them, what's the view for the department? What are you trying to get to?
Right.
And that really puts them off the scent. I've never had anything back from any civil servant or any minister or politician to say, yeah, no, I'm in favour of this and we're going to do this, that or the other. So the population then could at least have a view. And the one, it stands out a mile, doesn't it, is the DOI about the 20 miles an hour. The minister went round, or was going round there, with her policy. That's nothing else. She's not consulting anybody at all. She's going through an exercise on that, but they've probably made their mind up. And we still haven't had any answers back from when she went to Douglas, Onken, and she's now in Peel, and then she's going down south just before Christmas or just after Christmas. Maybe she's going to look for support towards the end.
David, you've been through the democratic process many times, some unsuccessfully, quite a few successfully. How do you get people to go out and vote?
You've got to talk to them. You've got to go. It's difficult, as I say, and the record I use now, but I'm not putting anybody off, is you need to get involved with the community, really. Pick up a community issue if you're involved in anything at all. Like I say, when they halved Onken off for the national elections, and that was the fault of the previous speaker from Laxey, Steve Roden. I always tell him off because he started that. The other issue was, too, when a local authority member, in Oaken anyway especially, is you have something like 6,000-7,000 places to go to.
Yeah.
You'll never do it. And how do we encourage people to stand? You've got to have a community interest, and you've got to have something that's it's upset you, or you feel strongly enough that the current politicians are not doing nothing about.
But remember, David, there was a guy who stood in Oncom for many years who topped the poll every time, and I'm guaranteeing he didn't go around every door. But no. I mean, I'm talking about Peter Carron, but he somehow energised people to vote for him. Why was that?
I don't know really, because Peter was fine. I did have a few arguments with him because...
everybody had arguments with Peter.
Yeah, once you get into hard politics anyway with our national government, it's a bigger picture. You're not just looking after Oncon, or you're looking after the whole of the Isle of Man, whether you like it or not. And far afield, then you've got to deal with people who are millionaires, people who want to live here because it's safe to live in the Isle of Man, and talk to businesses. I don't see this group we've got at the minute are actually talking to businesses and supporting businesses, what they want to do. I just think that they've gone quiet. They really have gone quiet. And I just wanted to let you know, too, I'm making 3.5 kilowatts and my battery's charged 20%. Okay. And can you imagine if the government had some panels somewhere in the schools?
Okay. Well, and that's the point, isn't it? With all these government properties, where is there a solar panel? Where's the PV panel on any government property?
There isn't any, as far as I know. And you talked about wind turbines, vertical turbines. Yeah. And I'm going to mention a company, I'm not connected with them, EMS in Hills Meadow. They had they've still got it. I must go down to Hills Meadow and have a look. Still have got it at their business down there. It was on a telegraph pole, an old telegraph pole, and it was making electricity. And I think they sold one to government that's on the mountain. And I was going to check the other day, but the mountain is shut, isn't it? Yeah. But anyway.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
All right, mate. See you, but let me know about Peel. Did anybody meet the Minister?
Okay, if anybody can report back on that. Did you meet the Minister in Peel regarding the 20 miles per hour, 7 minutes before 1? Yellow cards aren't confirmed side effects. How can 6 people report that they died directly as a result of the COVID vaccine? Yellow cards can be submitted by anybody, whether the event actually happened or not. Well, you can check that. Julian did mention the number of the FOI if you want to check that as well. Here's Ken with us now. Hello, Ken.
Good afternoon from a sunny Peel.
Lovely.
Strangely enough, I did meet the Minister last night.
Right.
Now, I've got to declare I'm a non-driver. So Peel is ripe for 20 miles an hour all the way through the town. Because there's so many cars, you probably don't need to put signs.
Yeah.
There's so many cars.
I'm just trying to think, where can you get above 20 miles an hour in Peel? You can't.
Well, coming past the campsite, cloth workers, coming down the hill towards the police station, towards the crossroads.
Right.
There are some cars probably doing about 40 miles an hour because they want to get through the junction and go straight down. So that's the only place that's really quite, because I live near there, and some cars. But there again, some cyclists are probably doing more than 20 miles an hour coming down the slight hill. But there was a few people there, not a lot, but I only stayed for half an hour because I spoke to the Minister. She's quite about another thorny subject, Edward Pier, and it's in hand, seemingly, trying to modernise Edward Pier.
Well,
anyway, that's not what I want to talk about.
Well, just briefly, what are they going to do with Edward Pier?
Well, redo the shelter that's only a temporary structure.
Oh, right.
It's got a hole in the roof. A gap in the roof and you get wet.
Okay.
It's only a temporary thing.
Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
No. Is it true that the MUA are wanting to spend $451,000 on electric charging points at the airport?
Yeah, that's it.
In our rush to go green, net zero by 2030. Who's going to pay for this?
We are.
Me being a non-driver.
Well, there we are.
They're more expensive because they're going to be the fast track. Why can't people who drive electric cars pay for it? this is, and again, it's another big con about smart meters. The rush to give everybody a smart meter. What for? How much is it costing? How much? And they probably bought out-of-date smart meters. I don't want to go on about that, but it's ridiculous. But, to spend possibly spend 451,000 on fast-track chargers. Every charging point you put in, there's 3 spaces, and you lose one for the charger.
Well, they're losing spaces. I think it's in the car hire park there. So there'll be fewer spaces for hire cars.
So what's that to do with the MUA? Shouldn't they pay for it if they want them?
Well, we'll see. Okay, all right. Well,
okay.
What was the turnout, by the way, at the thing last night, the 20 mile per hour turnout? How many people were there?
I was there half an hour. I only saw 5 people.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Ken. And I've got a note here. I roadie for a Pink Floyd tribute band. This is Richard at Heanor in Derbyshire. Hello, Richard. I'd say 95% of the audience is sit and listen quietly, only reacting at the right moments. However, there's always a few who think their voice is more important than the performance. At a Pink Floyd tribute, when that happens, we report them to the theatre staff, says Richard. There's no place for armed police on regular patrol, says Texter 284. Why were they deployed to the government conference? And only now is it because we have a new chief constable. He's not new, he's been here a while. There are 2 black swans in Union Mills at the moment. I saw an adult black swan in Castletown Harbour recently, and that's JK and Texter 955. Oh, by the way, the Axonfell, somebody's asking about the Garth Commissioner's Axonfell sewage. Working Men's Institute, 22nd of October, 7 o'clock. That's it. Thanks to Chris on the phones today.
WINT.